Good morning, dear students. We are going to discuss the lateral view of the skull now. So that is the norma lateralis. So after you have finished the norma verticalis, that is the superior view of the skull bone, and norma frontalis, now let us try to understand what are the things what we see on the lateral view of the skull bone. So on the lateral view of the skull bone, I have used a colored picture so that you understand the clarity of each bone. Listen very carefully. See here. Now the bones which we see in the lateral view, we have frontal bone, the same bone what you saw in norma frontalis and verticalis. The parietal bone, temporal bone, occipital bone. Apart from these bones, the other bones what we see in the lateral view are very important. We have sphenoid bone. In this particular part of the sphenoid bone is greater wing of sphenoid bone. Try to have skull bone in your hand and try to appreciate the features whatever I am telling you so that you will appreciate the things better. That's I always suggest you. But in case if you do not have skull bone also, do not panic and try to like uh, try to understand each and every labeling and try to memorize each and every labeling so that it will help you to understand the future classes when we do something related to skull bone, the muscle attachments, whatever structures. Basic thing anytime we have is osteology. That's the reason we always start with skull, like bones of a particular region. Okay. So let us continue. The other bones what we see in this region are, we see the sphenoid bone which is shown in pink color for our convenience. Okay, this is the bony orbit. Okay, so which you see in the norma frontalis. So in this bony orbit, the other bones what we see, which also now see in the lateral view, we are seeing a part of the bony orbit. So we are finding this brown in color inside the orbit is ethmoid bone, which is forming the medial boundary. And continuation, you are finding lacrimal bone, and there within the orbit, bony orbit, we also have lacrimal fossa. In continuation, as you saw in the norma frontalis, the same bone is seen from the lateral view also, that is nasal bone, and this bone is like in sky blue color it is shown, that is zygomatic bone. Okay, so in the violet color, the bone what is shown is maxilla, and lower down what we see is mandible. Okay, so now see here, when you talk about maxilla, we have the alveolar margins where sockets are there and where tooth are just attached. Now see the mandible, it has mental foramen. Now the mandible we are going to discuss as a separate bone, but to complete the lecture, whatever structures are seen, I will tell you. This is body of the mandible, this is ramus of the mandible, this is angle of the mandible. Okay, this projection of mandible is coronoid process. This projection is condyloid process. Okay, so here it actually fixes in the mandibular fossa of the like temporal bone to form temporomandibular joint. Okay, then in the morning class you have studied like this is the coronal suture in the norma verticalis. Here we have the lambdoid suture. Okay, and this suture what you are finding between the temporal bone and the parietal bone, it looks quite smooth. So whenever we find any structure smooth, we use the word squamous, and the suture is squamous suture. So this is occipital bone. Okay, now see, we have certain things like this is zygomatic bone, and this arch you are finding here is zygomatic process or the zygomatic arch. The zygomatic process of the temporal bone and the temporal process of zygomatic bone together, it forms an arch like this, which is called as zygomatic arch. Okay, so this is moving towards zygomatic bone, hence you call it as the zygomatic process of temporal bone. This process is moving towards temporal bone and it is from zygomatic bone, hence you call it as temporal process of zygomatic bone. Together this structure is the zygomatic arch. Okay, then so now in this picture whatever is visible, let us try to appreciate. So this is actually the external ear. The cartilaginous part of our pinna is decayed. In the skull bone we find the bony part which is external acoustic meatus. Okay, then just adjacent behind the external acoustic meatus, you can feel in your own body. Behind the ear, you will find there is mastoid process, okay, and then there is styloid process, okay. Then the suture what you find between the occipital bone and the mastoid process. See, this is the occipital bone and the mastoid process. You call it as occipitomastoid suture. If you be logical, if you have developed some logical thinking, you need not by heart things. You will be able to appreciate things much better. Okay, then. So whatever labelings we have found here, you are like you are supposed to appreciate when you hold the skull bone. Okay. So now I will stop sharing my screen and I'll try to show the bone. So I all of you see here. This is the lateral view of the skull bone. If you have skull bone with you, I always tell you it is always better. See, this view is the one which you see from the front, you call it as norma frontalis. This you see from above, you call it as norma verticalis. This you see from behind, you call it as norma occipitalis. This you view from side, you call it as norma lateralis. And this you view from down, you call it as norma basalis. Okay. Now, when you talk about our norma like this lateralis, in this lateral view, what are the various bones? Just now I said this is the frontal bone. Okay. This is the parietal bone. This is our greater wing of sphenoid bone. This is temporal bone. This is occipital bone. This is mastoid process, which you can feel behind your own ear. Okay, mastoid process. So this is the mastoid process, and you are finding there is one projection downwards, very important. You call this as very needle-like sharp projection you are finding. This is styloid process. Styloid process, very sharp. Okay, then. So this is the zygomatic bone. Okay, and this is the zygomatic arch. Half of it is contributed by temporal bone, half of it is contributed by zygomatic bone. Okay, so zygomatic process of temporal bone, temporal process of zygomatic bone, and there will be a suture in between. Okay, this is the point of suture. Okay, so which is showing the indication like the two bones meeting point. Okay, temporozygomatic suture or zygomatico-temporal suture it is called as. Okay, then you are finding this is actually bony orbit. So this bony orbit in the lateral view it is seen like this. So I was talking here that is the ethmoid bone, lacrimal fossa, isn't it? Then I was talking about this bone actually. So this is the lateral view where we have nasal bone. Okay, so that is no, the zygomatic arch is the line of demarcation above which you call this area is temporal fossa. Below this you call it as infratemporal fossa. We will see the boundaries of infratemporal fossa, temporal fossa. Deeper inside where I am trying to pass my finger or this probe over here, this much probe is going inside. Deeper fossa, what we have, first we will see in PowerPoint type of view, then you will understand the things better. Then I will come back to the osteology part, okay, showing you the skull bone. I hope you understood few things like this now. Okay, so now let me stop my video and share, go back to the PowerPoint now. See here. So these are the various bones which I have shown you live also. Only thing is I didn't show you. Okay. Mandible anyhow we are going to discuss separately. Don't worry. Okay. Now see here. This is the norma lateralis. The skull is seen from the lateral side. The norma lateralis exposes to our three fossae I told you. This area is temporal fossa. Below the zygomatic arch, you will see infratemporal fossa. And deeper inside, when you cut the zygomatic arch and this bluish area, okay, this area is actually pterygopalatine fossa, which is much deeper inside. This is seen behind maxilla bone, inferior to greater wing of the sphenoid bone and this lateral pterygoid plate. We are finding deep inside there is a fossa, that is pterygopalatine fossa. So this is the section of the skull bone, like this is like sagittal section of the skull bone. You are finding the interior, inside view of skull bone. So the inside view also, see inside the frontal bone there is one empty space. You call it as frontal air sinus. Sphenoid bone also will have an empty space. You call it as sphenoidal air sinus. Okay. The other colors what you see are, this is the inside view of mandible bone, inside view of maxilla bone. Got it? Okay. So this is of course nasal bone. This is our ethmoid bone. Okay, then frontal, parietal, occipital, okay, and this is temporal, right? Okay, so then, so this is one view which I just wanted you to understand. This is the hard palate bone which will be actually separating the nasal cavity from the oral cavity. Okay. So this is the true cut section of the skull bone. The most important thing which you are supposed to understand is we have empty spaces inside the skull bone which are called as air sinuses, pneumatic bones like which make the skull bone light in weight. So inside the frontal bone we have frontal air sinus, inside the sphenoid bone we have sphenoidal air sinus, and this is the inside view of the skull, okay, where you are finding so many vascular impressions. These vascular impressions are nothing but the blood vessels will be showing the impressions. Okay. Now the bones involved, I already told you, a quick review. We have temporal bone, right? We have parietal bone, we have occipital bone, frontal bone. Blue in color is zygomatic bone, violet is maxilla, only for our understanding, not like this. This is the mandible bone, nasal bone. Pink in color is sphenoid bone, and lacrimal bone we see inside the orbit. Okay, try to pause the video and try to learn it then and there itself. You need to spare a lot of time to learn head and neck, not an easy task. And if you take it easy, you will land into troubles right from day one. Be serious and study then and there itself. Now see here, lateral fontanelles. Now this is the fetal skull. And in the fetal skull, generally, you will see between the skull bones, there will be certain openings because we know this from the knowledge of our general anatomy, we know most of the skull bones are ossifying in membrane. They are undergoing membranous ossification. So when you see in the norm of verticalis view, between the frontal and parietal bones, there is an opening, you call it as anterior fontanelle, where we have that bregma point. This area, when if you have ever taken a newborn baby in your lap and if you have just tried to press over this area, you usually see it will be like very much membrane, no bone is there. That is actually anterior fontanelle, the membrane part of the bones which has not yet ossified. Similarly, posteriorly also, between the two parietal and occipital bones, we have posterior fontanelle. In adults, that is the lambda point. Okay, similarly, when you see this lateral view, see this is the parietal bone, frontal bone, occipital bone, temporal bone and sphenoid bone. Between these bones also membrane is still existing and it is not yet ossified. So here we have certain fontanelle, like you call it as, towards the sphenoid bone you call it as sphenoidal fontanelle. Okay, also called as pterion. Behind, towards the mastoid process and that area, here also you will have one membranous cap which is not yet ossified. You call it as mastoid fontanelle, also called as asterion. Okay, let us see. So this is the lateral view of the skull bone. Like again, nothing new. The same names have been repeated for our convenience. Okay. So the sutures are shown. See, I told you this is external acoustic meatus. Remember, mastoid process. This is styloid process. Okay. This is gonial angle is nothing but angle of the mandible. Okay. So this is condylar process, mandibular notch, coronoid process of the mandible. This is mental eminence. That means eminence of our chin. Okay, this is anterior nasal spine. And I said this is temporal process of zygomatic bone. This is zygomatic process of temporal bone. Both are fusing here at the zygomatico-temporal suture. Okay, so here in the norma frontalis you have already studied, like this is the superciliary arch. Now, we have three important fossae when you come across the norma lateralis. So the fossae what we have are temporal fossa, infratemporal fossa and pterygopalatine fossa. Now coming to the temporal fossa, we will try to see. See, I said this is our zygomatic arch and the area whatever you see superiorly, this is all temporal fossa. Okay. So we will see the boundaries, we will see the floor, we will see the temporal lines also and supramastoid crest. Okay. Now, this is the lateral view of the skull bone. When you see the lateral view, we know this is frontal parietal, right? So if you just observe, there is one faded line if you have skull bone in your hand, which has been shown in a dotted line. This area is actually called as superior temporal line. Superior temporal line. And if as now just below that there is one more line which is called as inferior temporal line. Okay. Now see here, I'll try to show you. Here in the skull bone also, see, I will try to draw and show you. So I have drawn two lines. Okay, the line which is actually starting from the orbit and moving like this, that is the superior temporal line. Below that there is one more line which is called as inferior temporal line. This is the mastoid process, and this particular point where I kept my finger now, which is actually in collaboration with the superior temporal line. This is actually called as supramastoid crest. Supramastoid crest, and this triangular area is actually suprameatal triangle. Suprameatal triangle. Okay, so those are the temporal lines. Okay, so let me share the PowerPoint now. Now see here. So these are our like superior temporal line we have. This is the one which is not shown in dotted line, but still it is little elevated. You call it as inferior temporal line. Okay. Then we know this is the mastoid process. We know this opening is external acoustic meatus, right? Okay. Then so in the lateral view, so temporal fossa in the sense the area which is above zygomatic arch, this complete area, whatever you are finding, this is nothing but temporal fossa. Please understand, this above zygomatic arch, whatever area we have, that is all the temporal fossa. Now see here, something is shown over here like pterion. What is this pterion? Like in the fetal skull, just now I have told you something. What was that? I told like we have certain frontanelles like sphenoidal frontanelle, no? And mastoidal frontanelle. So corresponding to sphenoidal frontanelle in adults, we usually have, there is a meeting point of certain five bones. That meeting point is actually called as pterion. Pterion can be a 3 marks question. So what are the four bones which are meeting here? Let us see. One is the frontal bone, the other is parietal bone. Next we have temporal bone, and then we have the sphenoid bone. So sphenoid, parietal, frontal and temporal meeting point is pterion. Pterion. Okay. So whatever are relevant and important, I am telling you. Now see here. Now if you observe this temporal fossa, I told you whatever area we have above this zygomatic arch, you call this whole area as the temporal fossa. So obviously above and behind, see this is behind. Above and behind, what do we have? We have temporal lines. Okay, the superior and inferior temporal lines. Now, this is in front. This is our fossa and this is the front area. So we have, this is temporal surface of zygomatic bone, and this yellow bone is greater wing of sphenoid bone. Greater wing of sphenoid bone. Okay, then coming to below and behind, we have this area, this where arrow has been shown. I told you this is the mastoid process. Here you will have supramastoid crest. What is this pink bone? This is all temporal bone. So where arrow has been shown, this is the below and behind boundary. Because this area is bounded by supramastoid crest of temporal bone. Below and in front, See, this is below and in front it is communicating with infratemporal fossa. Infratemporal fossa. Okay. Now, so this is all about temporal fossa. So let me show you the bone also now. Now see here, where is this infratemporal fossa region now? Exactly, you can see this area. First we have this temporal fossa. So exactly I am using the same position what you are finding on the screen. So above is this, we have temporal lines, okay. Then this is in front, okay. So the front area is actually the this bone. What is the name of this bone? I said zygomatic. So this particular point is actually called as temporal surface of zygomatic. Okay. And we know this is our sphenoid bone. Isn't it? Sphenoid bone. Then below and behind, see, this is below and behind. I told this is our mastoid process and this area becomes below and behind. This is supramastoid crest. This point, supra, above the mastoid process. Supramastoid crest of this bone, temporal bone. Below, zygomatic arch is the line of demarcation. So this is below. It is in communication with infratemporal fossa. You can see how I have passed my finger showing temporal fossa is above zygomatic arch, infratemporal fossa is below. So you can see it like this. So it is communicating with infratemporal fossa. Okay, below and also in front, it is in communication with infratemporal fossa. Okay, so that is you should know. Now, after knowing this, see the floor of this temporal fossa. What are the various bones we are finding? Floor is very simple. You are finding parietal bone, you are finding greater wing of sphenoid bone, you are finding smooth part of frontal bone, that is famous part of the frontal bone, and this temporal bone. This is all forming the floor of temporal fossa. All these bones, 1, 2, 3, 4. Parietal, frontal, sphenoid and occipital. What is this? Temporal. Temporal. Okay. So what is this point? Just now I have introduced this term called as pterion. Meeting point of frontal, parietal, sphenoid and the temporal. Meeting point is the pterion, where we have the sphenoidal frontanelli in the skull bone of fetus. Similarly, if you see the meeting point of three different bones behind, we have asterion, like star, asterion. What is this we have in green color? Yes, parietal, this is temporal and this is occipital. You call it as asterion. Nothing but mastoid frontanelli of fetal skull. Okay. So in this temporal fossa, you have a very powerful muscle of mastication which helps in chewing of food. That is temporalis. Temporalis muscle we see in the temporal fossa. Okay, it comes in the temporal fossa region and it gets inserted in the coronoid process of mandible. Okay, so it passes deep to the zygomatic arch and gets inserted over here. Okay, then so four angles of parietal bones. See, this is our parietal bone. There, it's quite vascular. It has lot of blood supply. So trephining is nothing but drilling of the skull bone in order to do certain surgical procedures if there is any blood clot, thrombus, embolus, or if there is any problem. Okay. So generally we do trephining if there is any hemorrhage and blood is collected over there. So bregma, we know this point, and this is the lambda point. We have this is the superior sagittal sinus. This is asterion. Sorry, this is the asterion. Okay. Here it is sigmoid sinus. These words are of course new for you, but don't worry. We have 1 hour separate lectures to understand dural venous sinuses. For now, just try to understand the names. Asterion is related to vein of the brain, that is the sigmoid sinus, and bregma and lambda is related to one of the veins of the brain, that is superior sagittal sinus. Okay, like that. So pterion is related to anterior division of middle meningeal vessels. That means all the four angles of the parietal bone are highly vascular. Okay, vascular in the sense very much rich in blood supply. Hence, if we try to do like burhole surgery, stiffening and all, if you choose parietal, it is a greater risk of causing bleeding, that is hemorrhage. Okay, this view already we have seen. So this is the zygomatic arch, I said. How is it formed? Articulation of temporal process of zygomatic bone. This is zygomatic bone and this is the temporal process because it is moving towards temporal bone. And this is like zygomatic process of temporal bone. This whole meeting point, whatever we have, is the zygomatic arch. So there is a suture in between. So you call it as zygomatico-temporal suture. Okay, between the zygomatic bone and temporal bone, zygomatico-temporal suture. Very simple. Okay. Now, when you talk about zygomatic arch, upper margin is quite sharp outside inwards. Okay, it gives attachment to one of the layers of scalp. Next class, we will discuss scalp. So, the scalp is attached over the upper sharp margin of the zygomatic arch. The third layer of scalp, actually it's called as Galea aponeurotica, epicranial aponeurosis. Two names are there. It also gives attachment to temporal fascia. So this upper margin, it is in continuous with the temporal line. See, this is the continuity. It is in continuation with temporal line. Behind, like this upper margin is in continuation with this supramastoid crest. This is the mastoid process and this area is supramastoid crest. If you have skull bones in your hand, try to appreciate. If not, also don't panic. There is nothing wrong if you just forget few points also. Just for your knowledge, you should try to learn the things. Okay. Then now coming to the lower margin. Now this exclusively only zygomatic arch is shown. So this is the lower margin of the zygomatic arch. Okay. It gives origin to the muscle, one of the muscles of mastication, that is masseter. One was temporalis and second is masseter. Behind the zygomatic arch, it gives attachment to one of the ligaments of temporomandibular joint called as lateral ligament. Okay, then so this zygomatic arch lower margin is also forming the anterior boundary of mandibular fossa. This mandibular fossa, I told you, it takes part in the formation of temporomandibular joint. Okay, so actually this is it has two roots, like one anterior root and the other is posterior root. Posterior root is terminating into posterior glenoid tubercle. You can ignore these 2 points. In fact, these are like little high level. Okay, you don't worry if you don't understand things much also. Now, mandibular fossa, let us see where it is present. First, let me show you the mandibular fossa. Okay, then you will understand things better. See here, when you see this skull bone, so here I said this is the lateral view of the skull bone, right? And in the lateral view of the skull bone, we have seen this is the mastoid process, right? So when you just tilt it, when you see from the basal view, there is one fossa. Okay, there is one depression where I am keeping chalk piece mark both the sides. So this fossa is actually mandibular fossa. So mandibular fossa is the place where this is the mandible bone, what you are seeing. Okay, and in the mandible bone, see, I said this is condyloid process of the mandible, conoid process, and this is the mandibular notch. Now we are bothered about only the condyloid process. The condyloid process of the mandible is fixing in the mandibular fossa like this to form temporomandibular joint. Okay, so this is, we can also use the word head of the mandible. Head of the mandible is fixing in the mandibular fossa to form the temporomandibular joint. Okay, like this it is. Okay, you can see how this head of the mandible is fixing in the mandibular fossa. Okay, so and the name of the joint is temporomandibular joint. Okay, so I hope you understood. Like for the head of the mandible, we have a, see, this is our temporal fossa and this is the head of the mandible. It comes and fixes like this. Okay, so we are now talking about this fossa, that is the mandibular fossa. So this mandibular fossa, if you observe, this mandibular fossa is very close to external acoustic meatus, right? So it is actually formed, external acoustic meatus is a part of which bone? We know it is temporal bone. Now let us see certain theoretical aspects, keeping this picture in mind. Okay. See here, this is the mandibular fossa we have. Okay, mandibular fossa. So in this mandibular fossa, I said the head of the mandibular comes and it binds, like it articulates over here to form temporomandibular joint. Now this mandibular fossa, it has like articular part which is formed by this articular tubercle is written over here. The anterior part which is actually formed by squamous, like smooth part of the temporal bone, non-articular part which is actually formed by like tympanic plate of temporal bone. So between these two, if you have bone, you can observe in fact, so there is a small fissure which is called as squamotympanic fissure. Squamotympanic fissure. Okay, then. So actually between this subdivided by, like there is one more fissure over there nearby, you call it as petrosquamous and petrotympanic fissure, where you find certain structures are passing, though such a small area, it gives passage to cauda tympani nerve, which is one of the branches of seventh cranial, that is facial nerve, anterior ligament of malleus, okay, that you see in the middle ear, and tympanic branch of maxillary artery. You need not remember so minute details, but still you have to have some idea, like there is one mandibular fossa where head of the mandible comes and fixes to form temporomandibular joint, and it is divided into articular and non-articular part, in between which you have a fissure called squamotympanic fissure. Very close by we have squamous and petrotympanic fissures also, and few structures are passing over there. Okay, this is our mandibular fossa. This is norma basalis view. Okay, because now you are seeing the norma basalis view. One thing I want you to remember here, this is all zygomatic arch, right? This view. This is all zygomatic arch. This red bone is sphenoid bone. When you see from norma basalis view, this red bone looks like a butterfly. Sphenoid bone. Whole thing is sphenoid. We have greater wing, we have lesser wing. Actually, it has two plates when you see from norma basalis. Why I am helping you to get oriented with these names, because there are two more fossae which form the boundaries, like infratemporal fossa, pterygopalatal fossa. These names we will come across. So in norma basalis, which is, these two plates are also seen from the lateral view. We have lateral pterygoid plate and medial pterygoid plate. Okay, so from these plates you have a projection called as pterygoid hamulus. Pterygoid hamulus. Okay, this much you remember for now. See, this is the true bone where you are finding. What is this? We know pretty well. This is our zygomatic arch. Okay, this is our mandibular fossa. Okay, glenoid fossa and nothing but mandibular fossa. This is external acoustic meatus. It has anterior part and it has posterior part, isn't it? Anterior part is squamous temporal, posterior part is tympanic plate of temporal. Squamous temporal is this, tympanic part of temporal is this, and then I said there is a fissure. Are you finding the fissure here? Yes. What is the name of the fissure? I said squamotympanic fissure. Okay, so this one, squamotympanic fissure. Okay, so pause the video and listen to it 2 to 3 times and try to get oriented. Don't think, array, I don't know, I didn't understand, and trying to go back and learn from the textbook, and then you are finding it difficult. Hope it should not be like that. Definitely, this complete information, if you just slow and steadily, if you learn, you will learn everything. Okay, this is external acoustic meatus. Now see, this exclusively what you are finding is temporal bone. Okay, this is squamous part of the temporal bone. This is the zygomatic process of the temporal bone, which takes part in the formation of zygomatic arch. This is external acoustic meatus. This is mastoid process. This area is the supramastoid crest. This is our styloid process. This is the mandibular fossa. Okay. squamous part, and the tympanic plate articular part, you have this mandibular fossa. Okay, so like now you have a labeled picture of the same thing but given in a reverse direction. Don't get confused. This time mastoid process is this side. Okay, this is all zygomatic process. Squamous part of the temporal bone. This is the tympanic part of the temporal bone. Styloid process. We have pteromastoid area. Okay, now coming to external acoustic meatus. What did I say external acoustic meatus? The bony part of the external ear which remains like in the skull bone. See where I have just kept this one. So as to, okay, I'll just stop sharing so that you will see where do we have external acoustic meatus. See this hole, this one. Okay, this is our mastoid process. Right in front of the mastoid process, you are finding this hole. This is external acoustic meatus. So nearby bones will be given different labelings. Now let us try to understand. Now see here. So external acoustic meatus. Now it has anterior wall. So this is where I kept my finger anteriorly. That is the anterior wall which is formed by tympanic plate. Okay, then so the upper part is quite smooth. That is the squamous part of the temporal bone which forms the roof and upper part and also the posterior wall of the external acoustic meatus. The medial end of the external acoustic meatus, we will have tympanic sulcus, and where we have this tympanic membrane that we cannot see. Okay. So these are like exclusively temporal bone is given, and you are finding here like this is the zygomatic process. We have the mandibular fossa. This is external acoustic meatus, mastoid process, styloid process. These names you remember, it is enough. Smooth part is the squamous part. Okay. Then this is the mastoid process. Mastoid process itself can be a 3 marks question. A nipple-like projection, I tell you always, like you can palpate it behind your own ear. Okay, so nipple-like projection, what you see behind the ear is nothing but mastoid process. This is our external acoustic meatus behind that. So here you will see certain muscles are coming and getting inserted. For now, if you do not remember so many names, also do not panic. Separate chapters are there for each. We are going to learn about sternocleidomastoid, many all muscles, nothing to worry. For now, you remember like mastoid process, outer surface is giving attachment to sternocleidomastoid, splenius capitis and longissimus capitis. The other surface, inner surface is giving attachment to posterior belly of digastric, and we have a groove also for occipital artery. Okay, this I can show you in fact. See, this is the mastoid process, right? So you are finding there is one depression over here. Okay, so this depression, as though you can keep the stick over there as though it is a rack. So that is nothing but a fossa for the occipital artery to pass from here. Okay, so that we will see on the inner side of the mastoid process. Okay, that is. So on the inner surface, you will see there is a groove for occipital artery. Occipital artery is one of the branches of external carotid artery which we will be learning. Okay, then. So now coming to styloid process. So styloid process is quite important because styloid process itself again can come as a 3 marks or 5 marks question. So the nipple-like projection, what we show, it's quite sharp, in fact, very like spine-like. It is like a needle. It is very big, 5 centimeters, 3 to 5 centimeters in length. It is that process projection you have from the base of the skull. You call it as styloid process. Okay, so what are the important structures which are attached to styloid process? We have stylohyoid and stylomandibular ligament. This will be asked in your Viva also. What are the structures attached to styloid process? We have 3 muscles and 2 ligaments. First 2 points are very important. Rest only for information. Okay, so three muscles and two ligaments. The two ligaments we have are stylohyoid and stylomandibular ligament, and three muscles are everything starts with styloglossus, stylohyoid, stylopharyngeus. Okay, laterally the styloid process is crossed by facial nerve. Medially we have it is related to internal carotid artery, internal jugular vein, okay, and last four cranial nerves between them. Then there is a hole between the styloid and mastoid process. You call this is last point is also important. That is stylomastoid foramen, where seventh cranial nerve is coming out, facial nerve, and there is a one artery also coming called as stylomastoid artery. See here, see, this is the mastoid process, nipple-like projection, sharp spine-like projection, like a needle-like projection is styloid process. It gives attachment to stylohyoid, stylomandibular ligament, styloglossus, stylopharyngeus, and stylohyoid muscles, right? Five. Now, between these two structures, you are finding one hole is there. I'll pass the probe and show you. You can see there is a hole. Between the mastoid and styloid, there is a hole. The name of this hole is stylomastoid foramen. Stylomastoid foramen, which gives passage to the facial nerve, which is the seventh cranial nerve, and also stylomastoid artery. Okay, so that is the hole between the styloid process and mastoid process. Okay, that is the stylomastoid foramen. Okay. Now see infratemporal fossa. Once you are done with temporal fossa, in this picture what you are finding is zygomatic arch is broken. A part of zygomatic bone is also broken, so that you will have a clear view of what you see inside. That is the infratemporal fossa. Now, the roof of infratemporal fossa is formed by this yellow bone. That is, we know this is the greater wing of sphenoid bone. You call this surface as infratemporal surface of greater wing of sphenoid bone. Not only that, this particular bone, smooth pink bone, what did we name it as? Squamous temporal bone. Okay. Now see, the roof was this and the floor is open. It doesn't have anything. This is area is floor. This becomes anterior wall. From the knowledge what you have, don't read the point and you just think what is the name of this bone anteriorly? We have maxilla. To be more specific, this is the posterior surface of maxilla. From here it will have a hole which communicates with orbit. Okay, so there will be a fissure like inferior orbital fissure through which you will see infratemporal fossa is communicating with orbit. Okay, so medial wall. I just told you I will show you this pterygoid plate. What is this? Lateral pterygoid plate. Okay, pterygoid hamulus I said, right? So lateral pterygoid plate. Here there is a fissure now between the pterygoid plate and maxilla bone. The name of this fissure where I am scrolling my arrow now, pterygomaxillary fissure. Pterygomaxillary fissure, which communicates the infratemporal fossa with one more fossa inside. Very hard to view even if you hold the skull bone in hand. There is one more fossa deeper inside. That area is pterygopalatine fossa. Pterygopalatine fossa. Laterally, now the bone has been removed. Otherwise, this infratemporal fossa's lateral boundary is formed by ramus and coronoid process of mandible. Simply, you can remember it is mandible bone. Okay, I'll try to show you now. See here. See below the zygomatic arch, we'll hold in the same skull direction what is shown on the screen. See, this is the zygomatic arch. Below this all is infratemporal fossa. So roof is nothing but where I am keeping my finger, that is greater wing of the sphenoid bone, and floor is open. Okay. Then anterior wall is this maxilla bone posterior surface. Okay, a body of maxilla. If you just see, there will be a hole and try to pass the probe and show you. In the morning class, you should have studied about, and you see, there is a communication between, this is our inferior orbital fissure and this is infratemporal fossa below zygomatic arch. So there is a communication between the infratemporal fossa and orbit. Okay, so this area. Okay, so here you have a communication of infratemporal fossa with the inferior orbital fissure of the orbit. So whatever fissure you are finding here, this is inferior orbital fissure. Above one is superior orbital fissure. So inferior orbital fissure, I am just passing this probe. You can see it is communicating with infratemporal fossa. And then when I hold the bone like this, I said we have pterygoid plates, right? So this is our lateral pterygoid plate, what I am holding. This is lateral pterygoid plate. Lateral pterygoid plate. And between the pterygoid plate and maxilla bone, again I said there is a pterygomaxillary fissure. Unless you have bone in your hand, it's really difficult, better, but still try. Okay, see, this is maxilla bone, right? So, and this is lateral pterygoid plate. So, between maxilla bone and lateral pterygoid plate, there is a fissure. You call it as pterygomaxillary fissure. This is pterygoid plate, and this is two fingers, my two fingers. This is pterygoid plate and this is maxilla bone, posterior surface. Between them there is a fissure. You call it as pterygomaxillary fissure. Pterygomaxillary. Pterygo and maxillary fissure. If you see how much bone is going inside, that means so much bone is going inside in the sense there is one deep fossa inside. You call that fossa is pterygopalatine fossa. Okay, so there is, if you pass a probe from here from your pterygomaxillary fissure, it will be leading into pterygopalatine fossa. Pterygopalatine fossa. Okay, so always it's better to have skull bone. If not, also don't panic with available things. You try to study. Don't think, "Ayyo, I don't have this now. How can I study?" Don't keep anything in pending. That is my sincere advice. How much ever you are able to see on the screen and able to understand, that is also more than enough. Okay, so this is infratemporal fossa. See, I said this is the like different colors I have used to make you understand clearly. This is lateral pterygoid plate. This is maxilla bone. Between them you have pterygomaxillary fissure. Just now I have passed the probe and I have shown you. It will lead to a fossa, that is the pterygopalatine fossa. Okay, pterygopalatine fossa. So you see the different pictures have been shown to make you understand, like zygomatic arch has been cut and this complete like inside the square whatever area we have is infratemporal fossa. So we have seen this is the pterygomaxillary fissure leading into pterygopalatine fossa. Now infratemporal fossa, see the communications. Superiorly it is communicating with, and show it's very simple. I need not stop sharing the screen also. Superiorly, it is communicating with temporal fossa, right? Yes, above. In front, we know it is communicating with orbit. Yes, we have seen it was like through inferior orbital fissure. Inferiorly, it is communicating with orbit. Inferiorly. Okay, then through inferior orbital fissure. Medially, where, what is this fossa I said between these two bones? Medially, it is communicating with pterygopalatine fossa through pterygomaxillary fissure. Okay, pterygoid plate, maxilla bone, pterygomaxillary fissure. If you pass the probe, you will lead into pterygopalatine fossa. So these are the communications. Okay, then now contents. So this is theory part which you should try to remember, at least 2 or 3 points, though I will give you the complete list. So here in this infratemporal fossa, we will see lower part of temporalis. I have shown you this muscle when we were doing temporal fossa, right? One of the strongest muscle of mastication, temporalis. Okay. Lateral and medial pterygoid muscles are also muscles of mastication. We will teach you when we do muscles of mastication, don't worry. In this area, we will see mandibular, maxillary nerves, which are the branches of fifth cranial trigeminal nerve. Cauda tympani also we will find in this area, which is a branch of seventh cranial nerve, that is facial. In this area, you will come across one ganglion, that is otic ganglion, very close to ear, supplying parotid. That's why it has been named as otic ganglion. Otic ganglion is actually, what is ganglion? Collection of cell bodies of neurons is ganglion. We will see all its connections when we are doing parotid gland. Don't worry now. Okay, here in this area we will also come across maxillary artery, and there is a network of veins in this area which is called pterygoid venous plexus. Okay, so these are the contents of infratemporal fossa. Okay, whichever is easy, 2 to 3 points, if you can remember, you remember. Okay, then pterygopalatine fossa. I said if you pass the probe deeper inside from pterygomaxillary fissure, deep inside we have pterygopalatine fossa. So it's a pyramidal space below the apex of the orbit. If you just move from here till here, the end of the orbit, that point. Okay, so that is in front. It is actually we are having, what are the structures? Same thing, posterior surface of the body of the maxilla. Okay, behind you will see one thing you remember, like greater wing of the sphenoid bone. Above it is communicating with orbit, same which I have passed the probe and I have shown you, inferior orbital fissure, through inferior orbital fissure. Below this pterygopalatine fossa's apex is closed. It is a closed space, very small closed space. Medially, we will have perpendicular plate of palatine bone. Laterally, it is actually communicating with infratemporal fossa through this fissure, the pterygomaxillary fissure. Though it is, of course, 100% complicated to understand the boundaries, but still try to just like see, anatomy is something which is of course 3D view unless you have bone in your hand. Though you have bone in your hand also, we cannot break this skull bone and see that small fossa area. So you need to imagine also little. So this is our pterygomaxillary fissure. From the pterygomaxillary fissure, you are finding, you are leading, like there is a communication between the orbit and infratemporal fossa. That means that particular communication small area is nothing but pterygopalatine fossa. Okay, so these are the boundaries what we have seen. Okay, that is. Now see, this pterygopalatine fossa will have 5 openings, 3 openings in the posterior wall, that is foramen rotundum, pterygoid canal and palatovaginal canal. Foramen rotundum gives passage to maxillary nerve, pterygoid canal gives passage to pterygoid vessels and nerves, palatovaginal canal gives passage to pharyngeal nerves and vessels. Don't worry where these holes are present, just arbitrarily you think like there is a posterior wall where we have these openings. Okay, one opening we see on the medial wall also, that is sphenopalatine foramen, which gives passage to nasopalatine vessels and nerves. One opening in the apex of fossa also, that is the greater palatine canal, for greater and lesser palatine vessels and nerves. So don't worry, we will never ask you so small details, but as a complete lecture, you should know the things. Okay, that's the reason I kept this slide, not to like trouble you. This is actually cranial fossa and foramen rotundum view you can see here. We are going to show you as a separate lecture. Anterior, middle and skull bone has been cut. Cranial vault is removed and here you are finding this hole, foramen rotundum. Okay, below this, now you have to imagine like it is leading into infratemporal fossa. Okay, that foramen rotundum you will see in one of the posterior wall of pterygopalatine fossa. Okay. So like see now this is our hard palate, this is the vomer bone, this is one nasal cavity, this is one more nasal cavity. Okay, these are our pterygoid plates. So deeper inside you are finding palatovaginal canal. So of course 100% I understand this is very difficult even if skull bone is there in your hand. So do not worry much. We will not ask you minute details. Okay, but still you should have complete knowledge. That's the reason we tell you everything. See, this is our pterygomaxillary fissure. I have shown you many times, which is found between the maxilla and lateral plate, lateral pterygoid plate. We know it gives transmission to third part of maxillary artery, maxillary nerve, superior alveolar. Alveolar means teeth. It goes and supplies the teeth. That's the reason it is named as alveolar. Because it is upper jaw, you call it as superior alveolar vessels and nerves. And here we have pterygoid venous plexus. Okay. So this is very close picture. Now there is no question of not understanding. See, this is maxilla bone, this is orbit. Zygomatic bone has been removed for our better clarity. This is posterior surface of maxilla, which is a little projected. You call it as maxillary tuberosity. This is lateral pterygoid plate. Between lateral pterygoid plate and maxilla, this is our pterygomaxillary fissure. If you pass the probe, it will enter into inferior orbital fissure of the orbit, right? If you pass a probe deeper inside, this point is nothing but pterygopalatine fossa. This is mandibular fossa for the head of the mandible. This is styloid process. Styloid, 5 structures are attached. Go back to my lecture and see. And this is external acoustic meatus. Okay. So pterygomaxillary fissure. Okay. Inferior orbital fissure. In the morning lecture also you should have studied, like this is our bony orbit. Here we have inferior orbital fissure. Please remember, it transmits infraorbital because it is present now in the infratemporal fossa. I added this slide. It gives passage to infraorbital vessels and nerves, zygomatic branch of maxillary nerve, and orbital branch of pterygopalatine ganglion. Okay, so this is inferior orbital fissure. Now overall, now contents of pterygopalatine fossa. Okay, when you cut here, this point is our pterygopalatine fossa, where exactly I kept the arrow. So you will find there maxillary nerve. Okay, what you are finding here, this is all maxillary nerve. Okay, maxillary nerve. There you are also finding one ganglion here. You call this ganglion as pterygopalatine ganglion, and of course its connections. And this is our maxillary artery. Okay, and deeper inside, the last part of maxillary artery is third part of maxillary artery and many branches. Maxillary artery itself we will separately discuss as a lecture, nothing to worry. For now, you should know what are the structures in vicinity nearby. Okay, so that is all about this. So apart from that, I actually want you to also talk about one more view, that is the norma occipitalis. See, we also norma occipitalis. See, this is the posterior view of the skull bone. Here you are finding the coronal suture, and here you are finding the lambdoid suture. And this meeting point of the coronal suture and the lambdoid suture, you call it as lambda. These are our mastoid processes. This is the external occipital protuberance. Here you will have nuchal lines, highest nuchal line, superior nuchal line, and inferior nuchal line. Okay, labeled picture also I will show you, nothing to worry. See, norma occipitalis. What all we should know is, this is sagittal suture, right? This is lambdoid suture. Meeting point is lambda, right? Here I said this is enion, also called as external occipital protuberance. So we have highest nuchal line, below which you have superior nuchal line, below which we have inferior nuchal line, right? So norma occipitalis is convex upwards and on each side, and it is flattened below. We see the posterior parts of parietal bones. Okay, I'll also show you the bones simultaneously. Very simple, but it's the simplest of all views is norma occipitalis. See, here you are finding. Okay, so it is convex upwards and on each side, and it is flattened below. You are finding the posterior sides of these two parietal bones. You are finding the squamous part of the occipital bone. You are finding the mastoid part of the temporal bone on each side. These are our mastoid processes, right? Mastoid process of the temporal bone on each side. Okay. Then, what are the sutures we saw? We saw this is our lambdoid suture. Then this is coronal suture. There is occipitomastoid suture. That means between the occipital bone and mastoid process, this point is occipitomastoid suture. Between the parietal bone, and mastoid process also, this suture is parieto-mastoid suture. Okay. So other features you see, I said we have external occipital protuberance, highest nuchal lines, superior nuchal line, inferior nuchal line. So near to the mastoid process, you will have a hole, you call it as mastoid foramen, which transmits emissary vein. Now what is emissary vein? Basically, emissary vein itself can come as either 5 marks or 3 marks question. That's the reason I have shared one table with you. See, emissary veins are the veins which are actually connecting the veins of the scalp to the veins of the brain. That means exterior of the skull to the interior of the skull. What is the dangerous thing about emissary vein? If there is any infection in the scalp, through emissary vein, the infection can get transmitted to the brain. That's the reason they are important. Okay. Now, based on the place, like in the norma verticalis, you have studied. See, this is our norma verticalis, and here, in fact, I am just putting one chalk piece mark. In between the chalk piece, I will just stop sharing this so that you will understand clearly. One foramen, if you see clearly, see this is one foramen you are finding in the parietal bone. You call it as parietal foramen. Similarly, if you see with mastoid process, you call it as mastoid foramen. Correspondingly, you have to understand like we have so many foraminae with so many structures passing inside, right? So, parietal emissary vein is seen in the parietal foramen. It is connecting the veins of the scalp to superior sagittal sinus, which is one of the sinuses like venous channel of the brain. All these are the veins of the brain which we will teach you when we do dural venous sinuses. These veins are actually seen within the fold of dura mater. Okay, so like mastoid emissary vein is passing through mastoid foramen, connecting the veins of the scalp to sigmoid sinus. Like emissary vein, there is also one emissary vein in the hypoglossal canal. Okay, hypoglossal canal we will discuss when we do norma bassalis. So it is connecting the internal jugular vein outside the skull to the sigmoid sinus inside the brain. Like that, we have four more emissary veins, condylar emissary vein. Just read this. All these are actually connecting the veins outside the skull to veins inside the brain. So hence, if there is any infection outside the skull, it immediately gets transmitted to the brain, and there may be thrombosis, clotting of blood inside the brain. Okay. So all 7 emissary veins, I want every one of you to learn because it's very, very important. Okay. So I hope you understood. So learn head and neck properly. Wish you very all the best. Thank you.